So I have a really varied background. I always say I'm a jack of all trades and master of nothing. So I've always been massively creative. As a kid, I always thought I would be a musician. I was a pianist and vocalist. So my favourite series is Voyager. Shocker. I know Linda's going to be very happy. Voyager. It's my comfort show. It's the sounds of Voyager are just my comfort sounds. I started doing Star Trek. Gosh, when would that have been? I think it would have been the Destination Trek. The last one they had before COVID was the first time that I did a 7 of 9 Star Trek cosplay. But it just made sense. I teach, prosthetics, hair, makeup. It made sense for me to sculpt my prosthetics and make them and kind of showcase my hair and makeup on myself rather than on other people all the time.
Special thanks to our Patreon executive producer, Jonathan Capps, and our Patreon associate producers, Chris Knapp and Mark Zutkoff. Your leadership support helps keep the transporter room running at warp speed. And to all of our Patreon members at every level, we truly appreciate you. Your support helps power every episode, interview, and away mission. We couldn't do this without you.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Transporter Room. I'm your host, Linda Paiges, and I'm joined today by the Transporter Chief himself, Chris Garris. We are so excited today because we are beaming in a star of the digital galaxy, a massive voice in the sci-fi community, and a true queen of the final frontier on social media, the one and only Leah, known to fans as Leah Sci-Fi on TikTok. From daily Star Trek trivia to takes on Doctor Who and Star Wars, Leah has completely transformed how a new generation connects with the worlds that we love. She has built an incredible platform by bringing her passion, her knowledge, and her signature energy to every fandom. We're going to dive into how she turned her love for science fiction into a massive online community, what her favorite ships are, and what it takes to dominate the sci-fi scene on TikTok. Get ready, let's beam in Leah Sci-Fi.
Hey, Leah.
Hi.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today.
Oh yeah, thank you for giving. Especially with time differences. You're 6 hours. You're 6 hours in the future.
I know all the secrets.
I know. Can you give me the winning lottery numbers for states? But yeah, thank you again for coming on. I appreciate it.
So while many Star Trek podcasts jump right into Star Trek, of course, our listeners, and I'm one of them, really appreciate learning about the journey that brought you into the world of hair, makeup, photography, AI, and digital media.
Okay. I don't even know where to start on that one.
Tell us a little bit about your background.
So I have a really varied background. I always say I'm a jack of all trades and master of nothing. So I've always been massively creative. As a kid, I always thought I would be a musician. I was a pianist and vocalist. I actually got a scholarship. I was in the top 100 keyboard players for my age group when I was 14. And that's one of my big claim to fame. My big claim to fame is that when I was 14, I was in the top 100. So I always thought I was going to be a musician.
That's amazing.
Yeah, random. So I thought I was going to be a musician, studied it at college and got into my second year of study and realised that I absolutely adored music, loved it all, but it wasn't what I wanted to do as a career. I didn't enjoy it when someone told me I had to do it. So I had a little bit of a panic because I knew I wanted to go to university, but I'd spent a whole career thinking I was going to be a musician. And I sat back and thought, okay, if there's anything else I could do, what would it be? And I thought I would love to do hair and makeup for TV and film and fashion events. And I thought to myself, there's not going to be a university program for that. You can't do a degree in that. Had a little look online and turns out you could. So I went and did my 3 years doing hair and media makeup. Got my degree there, and the university invited me back to be a graduate teaching assistant. So the day after graduation was my first day assisting on that degree program.
Wow.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So, because I'd worked a lot in industry while I was studying, I lived in my own place. I wasn't in student accommodation or anything like that. So it was really important that I was working and I wanted to do it in industry. And because I'd done a lot of modeling on the side when I was 16, I had a lot of contacts in place in the creative industry. So when it came to me going from in front of the camera to behind, I kind of had some connections there. So I did work with BBC events, ZTV, ASOS, M&S, all that kind of thing with hair and makeup, and then moved more and more into teaching. And now I am a full-time lecturer across 4 degree and master's programs, teaching hair, makeup, prosthetics, and AI.
That is so cool.
That's so cool. Oh wow, I'm just trying to think of your, with what you've been doing, have you ever like met, like the likes of like Michael Westmore or anybody like that yet in your?
Michael Westmore would have been like so high on the list. But we have a lot of UK prosthetic events. So there's quite a few prosthetic artists that I've worked with. And our team that I work with currently are so diverse. It's something that I'm now very used to. But actually, my colleagues that I work with are people that worked on Terminator 2 and Harry Potter and things
Oh,
like that. So just the people I work with, are people that have done the most fantastic things. So I've met all sorts from all sorts of backgrounds over the years.
That is so
dang,
cool.
that is so
That's
cool.
amazing.
And I didn't. So I had when we were preparing, I had looked at what you've done, and I was surprised. I didn't know you were a I'm gonna say professor, for here, but you're a lecturer. So how long have you been doing that now in school and teaching?
So I started teaching when I was, as in not teaching assistant, actually moving into my
Correct.
lecturing role when I
Mm-hmm.
was 23.
Mm.
Wow.
So, quite a little while now. I'm now 28. So as a very young lecturer, which I've always used to my advantage.
Yeah.
It's a really good way to relate to your students because they see themselves in me because I'm not that overly far ahead of them.
Mm-hmm.
So I use it as a little bit of an aspirational tool. I didn't come from a wealthy background. I didn't have privileged parents. Very much the opposite of that, actually. And I very much communicate that to my students and say, listen, I came from this background. I understand your struggle and what you're going through. Here's what I did. And I find that really, really supports me in my teaching and my delivery because they see someone their age that's accessible. And it just brings the realities to life a little bit more.
That's amazing.
No, I can only imagine. Because like you said, like Linda's a junior right now in college, so that would be like she'd be one of your students in a way, if you were doing physics or
Yeah.
or she was doing hair and makeup. Um, dang.
I am taking some. I've taken some comp sci classes, so it would be possible I could end up in something you're doing with AI. So yeah,
AI.
yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. Well,
So
and yeah. Dang. So speaking of the AI, how are you integrating that now into basically, and your curriculum and your just in general and with everything you're doing? Because I don't know if you've seen. We've had some. Lynn and I do a little thing called Trek Tech. I gotta get the title right. We always mess it up. We
Surprisingly hard to say. I feel like we could have come up with something easier to say
Yeah.
in retrospect.
Anyway,
Tech
but
tech.
yeah, and what we've discussed AI and just in a general sense in the realm of Star Trek, and
mhm.
where it could and couldn't go. But so how are you integrating it now in just obviously to your students, your professional businesses, and and
Mhm.
obviously we'll get to your content, but even a little bit of a little sneak peek into your content.
Oh God, there's so many ways that I'm integrating it. So I got really interested in AI and I realized that in my institution there was a little bit of a gap of people that actually had gone and done formal training in AI. So I went and did I think it was like an 8-week course with Oxford University on AI ethics. And from that, it just gave me a base of knowledge of how I
Mm-hmm.
can use it in the classroom and use it as a lecturer when it comes to things like lesson planning. But of course, in education, we're facing
Oh,
massive plagiarism issues and huge academic challenges of submissions just being AI generated,
ooh,
identifying them, training staff to identify them when you're marking. And also what I'm really, really passionate about is a lot of universities, as a result, are trying to scare students off from using AI. And AI is such a fantastic resource for learning. They just need to know how to use it in the right way. And in our sector of hair, makeup, TV and film, our students hate it. When we think back to the writers' strikes, our industry lost so much work because of AI, and our students are very anti it. And thankfully, we get very low AI rates when it comes to submissions, but that's because they were too scared to use it in any capacity. So, as a module leader in the modules that I lead, I'm looking at teaching them to use it for academic support, as coaches periods over Christmas when lecturers aren't in to help you, having, something there as a support, and integrating it that way to support in their study, but doing so in a way that doesn't just scare them.
I see a lot of kind of blatant like blanket hate for AI online. And I think it's really interesting. In the physics department at my college, the professors are very pro AI. Like they'll tell us to use it. I mean, they have guidelines and things that of course they're hoping that we follow.
Yeah.
And for the most part, it's kind of impossible to not follow them because the AI does have limits. So,
Yeah.
But they tell us to use it for homework help, for for, I think the best way that I've been told to use it, one of my professors told me to do this, and this is just the greatest way to study with AI. If you give it copy and paste or screenshot whatever it is you're trying to study, so don't just ask it, but like give it the material, and then say, can you teach me this but use Star Trek Voyager? And then it'll like come up with like with like
Okay.
a
Yeah.
Star Trek Voyager plot, but like use to teach me. So I use it for that all the time. That's my go-to for AI, because it makes it so much more interesting to learn physics when you're reading about Voyager.
That's a really cool one. Another
Right?
one that I loved when it comes to prompting is treating it like an actor and you're the director. So
Oh.
rather than just saying, I don't know, tell me how good Star Trek Voyager was, give it a character. So you are an experienced film critic with 30 years experience analyzing TV and film. Based on this, create an analysis of da 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 da. And that really helps it. You'll get a really, really good response if you treat it like an actor by giving it that clear direction.
Interesting. That's really good. Thank you. I'm going to use that.
That is very good. Well, and
that's awesome.
I'm glad you say that, because the gentlemen that work with me behind the scenes that do my graphics and whatnot, we have used AI to help with some of this, like design some of the things, and the one thing they say is exactly what you just said. It's all about the prompt and how because you have to, if you can get that prompt just right and guide it, it can do what you want, but you have to give it the right metrics to be able to do what you need it to do. And
Yes,
it's
absolutely.
crazy. And it's crazy what it can do. Well, and I was, before we're going to get to the Star Trek stuff here in just a minute, because I had one more question a little bit about like some of your clients. I was looking at like, I wouldn't have even thought that you would need to do hair and makeup for the BBC to be prepared for the elections and whatnot. I was like, what?
Yeah. So pretty much anyone that you see on TV is wearing makeup, even if they're a male and there's someone like a politician and the last person you think is wearing makeup, they are more than likely wearing some form of makeup. And particularly in things like political debates, because if they get flustered, they're going to go a little bit red in the cheeks. Maybe the hives start crawling up the neck, and they don't want opposition or the cameras to see that they're nervous. So you need to have that makeup on just to pull back some of those blushing moments.
Oh, that's too funny. Okay. Well, I'm not even going to go any farther than that when it comes to that stuff. But
Some people choose orange. That's all I'm going to say.
Oh, Okay. All right, so now
No comments.
we're going to dive into this. We're going to dive into the Star Trek section of this podcast, and so
It's probably for the best.
yes. Okay. So yeah. So now let's get into the good fun, the fun stuff that brought all three of us together, which is Star Trek, and it's why we're all here. So oh my gosh.
So the first question is, how did you get into Star Trek, and when did you get into Star Trek?
So I've always been into Star Trek, but kind of unknowingly. It's only in
Okay.
recent years that I have kind of clicked that my dad is a sci-fi nerd. Um, and I never really knew because I was just so used to it. But I grew up watching Star Trek and Star Wars. I particularly loved Episode 1 Star Wars. I think because I was so little, the costuming and Queen Amidala and all of that attracted me. Whereas Voyager was just the sound of home for me. And what me and my dad used to do is we'd go to local charity shops. And at the time, it was all VHS. And we used to go into the charity shops and we would buy whatever Star Trek VHSs were in there. And we'd go home and watch them. So it would be all out of order. But that would be our little weekend activity where we'd go to a charity shop and try and find Voyager VHS tapes.
Oh my goodness, that's so sweet. I love that. I love that you're so connected to it, like with your childhood. That's so. Having this connection to Star Trek, what inspired you to make your TikTok?
Do you know, it all started with one video, and I had my TikTok was quite makeup based, but I wasn't trying to do anything with it. I just occasionally out of boredom would post something, just like most people.
Yeah.
And it started with one video because I was sick to the back teeth of people telling me I didn't look like a geek. And telling me, I get quizzed all the time. If I said I was a Star Trek fan, I'd get tested.
Really?
Yeah. And it was just this idea of, well, what am I meant to look like? I work in academia. I wear glasses. Like, what more do you want from me? So I posted a video and I just said, do you ever get told that you don't look like a geek? And it did just better than all the videos that I'd previously posted. And so many people resonated or was like, no, I look like a total nerd. So everyone expects it. And the interaction was just really nice and everyone was really friendly. So the next morning I just posted about what I do a little bit and people were really interested. So I just started talking about that side of myself, which I hadn't done on social media previously.
Well,
and then it escalated.
Oh, I imagine. I mean,
and now you're a Trek Talk girl.
Yes. Well, and I didn't know, about, until I started really to get into the social media because the channel, I had not really been on TikTok. I actually was like, oh God, TikTok, why am I on here? But I was just absolutely shocked to see how many people, especially Star Trek fans, are on there, and how much media they're creating, or and it just blew my mind. And I'm like, okay, so maybe this is not too bad of a place to be at times. And as we've heard, and funny thing is, if I had not been scrolling on TikTok, I wouldn't have met Linda. And we would not be. The algorithm somehow threw her in front of me one night or whatever. And I'm like, oh, that's pretty, she makes some good content, And then it's led me to you and Gracie Ann and a ton of other people out there. Like, I'm like, oh, wow, I did not know about the Trek Talk community.
Yeah.
That's as hard as to say as Tech Trek or Trek Tech.
It's grown so fast. I remember when I very first posted, and for the record, my TikTok's only been around for now 7 months. It's grown so quickly in 7 months. But even back then, because I'd gone looking as a consumer of TikTok for Star Trek content, and there wasn't a lot. And genuinely, in the last 7-8 months, I've watched it slowly grow and grow, and now it's totally thriving. It's fantastic.
What do you think's been? What's the cause of that? I mean, that's really interesting because like I said, I've only probably really been doing TikTok for the channel, actively for maybe a few months, several months now, because I just didn't see the need for it, to be honest with you. Which I was wrong. I'm just gonna admit I was wrong. There is a need for it. But yeah, I mean, but either of you, Linda as well, like, what do y'all think has been the rise of the Trek Talk and where it came from?
It's an interesting thought. I think TikTok's the younger person platform, right? It tends to be the younger fans that are on there. And I think we've got to a point where a lot of the iconic series have become very memeable. They're very good sketches.
Yeah.
And with the rise of cosplay as well, TikTok is such a fantastic place to showcase cosplay and creative work. I think it kind of comes hand in hand. And I think also people saw that there was this gap, that there wasn't for a long period of time that much Star Trek content on the platform, and have filled that space, which is fantastic.
I think that a lot of Trekkies, we weren't like the super cool kids growing up, you know what I mean? Like we were, not that there aren't any, obviously, like that's a huge stereotype, and that's not really my point in saying that. My point is just that it's just really, a lot of us don't have people, or a lot of people in our real lives, who get it, like who understand why we love Star Trek so much, why it inspires us so much. So I think when like even just a couple people like were posting about Star Trek, it's like the whole fandom just gravitates, and we've kind of built this community because it's like, oh, we have a community, right?
Yeah,
like which is just a really exciting thing. And also there's just not that many young people who love Star Trek. Like there's just not that many people in my generation who love it. So the ones that do and are on TikTok, they're following all of the like the Star Trek content creator account, right? Because that's all the Star Trek content that there is, right? So like so yeah,
okay. That makes sense, and that leads to why I think you and I connected so well. Is I like to call the legacy Trek. Everything from Enterprise back is legacy, and then we've got Discovery forward is the newer stuff, and then throw the JJs in there as well. I realized, and when we start talking about the conventions, but I realized there's not a lot of Lindas at the conventions. There's a lot of, unfortunately, the older generation are going and are doing the cons and, staying on Facebook, and not that Facebook's bad, but still, I'm saying we're not reaching out to the 20-year-olds. We need, as a fandom, we need to bring, and I think that's where like your content, Leah, is also helping, is bringing, is bringing in, well, your generation. I mean, God, you're 28, so I'm like, I'll be 49 in 2 weeks. Yeah. So yeah, in 2 weeks. And so, it's your group that we need to get to replace all of us, because we need to bring in more fans to the group. And that's why I'm so thankful, I have connected with this community now, and not just the, those of us that can be on Patreons with the actors and stuff like that. And so, but I do have to ask, I'm going to lead into this, I probably could guess what maybe your favorite series is, but why don't you tell us what your favorite series or movies and episodes and all of those lovely loaded questions.
So my favorite series is Voyager. Shocker. I know Linda's going to be very happy. Voyager. It's my comfort show. It's the sounds of Voyager are just my comfort sounds. I'm still very childlike with it. When an episode starts and the lights go down and the green like Borg lights come on, I still get scared. Like that scared feeling that I used to get when I was like 4 watching it. I still very much so get that. So it's a really special show for me. I also have a lot of love for Enterprise. I don't feel it gets enough
Yay.
love. I'm a big Enterprise
That's
fan.
right.
I'm
Do
doing
you
a
hear that?
rewatch.
Positively geeky.
Yes,
That's right.
positively. For those that don't know, I've challenged myself to a rewatch before going to Vegas, Star Trek Las Vegas 2026, and I'm watching every single
Yay.
episode and series and movie before leaving, which is about 4 movies or episodes a day for the next 9 months.
Oh my
So,
God.
and I'm on Enterprise because we're doing it chronological timeline wise. So I've got the
Thank
pleasure
you.
of rewatching that at the moment.
Good. That's the way it should be. That's how I feel. I love Enterprise. You know, that's
Good.
why I support the different Enterprise podcasts, the main one I do, and it's just, to me, they got robbed. They got robbed from their 7 seasons. They'll tell you that as well. That last episode just doesn't exist. It was just
Nope.
I mean, you haven't seen it. Well, I'm pretty sure Linda knows, but she has not actually seen. She knows how it goes.
I have all the spoilers for Deep Space Nine and Enterprise.
Yeah, but because unfortunately, all the podcasts that we're in were Enterprise focused and Deep Space Nine people. You know.
Yeah. Okay.
But it's just, it's yeah. And a lot of people. I was surprised to learn about the dislike for Archer actually at times, how much there was for him out there. And I always felt like he was learning. He didn't know what he was, he had to learn. He didn't have the prime directive or any of that stuff to lead him. So yes, he was going to make mistakes, some big, but we all have to crawl before we can, walk and run and out there. And so that's what I liked about it. It shows us what we would be like going out into deep space initially. Not Kirk and them.
It's Star Trek before the Prime Directive, and I think a lot of fans really struggled getting their head around that as a narrative. But it's an absolutely fantastic show. I loved it. I mean, I'm in the middle of the rewatch, and I'm halfway through season 2 currently.
Okay.
And so I am like so in it. I absolutely love season 2. Like any Star Trek series, it took a little while to find its feet. Give it season 1, season 2 to settle into the characters and the directions. But I'm absolutely loving it. I watched about 3 episodes this morning. So,
well, no, and I'm curious. I was surprised to learn when I interviewed John Billingsley. So you both have already seen. Obviously, I know you have, Leah, but have you finished Dear Doctor? Yes, you have. You finished Dear Doctor,
yes,
right?
That's the last one we reviewed.
Yeah.
On
I was surprised to learn that John. He basically told me and said that Phlox committed genocide, and I was like, what? And then he explained it because of the fact that he was making that decision to withhold the cure for the Valachians. I can't remember the name, but he made that decision. He was playing God. But I also feel like what T'Pol told Archer was, how long have we been on Earth? So I never saw it, but there are people out there and others that saw it that way. But I'm like, no, I did not see him as doing that. I just felt they were not helping a race that wasn't ready. And who are we to make the decision what species goes on and doesn't?
But again, that episode kind of has to happen to explain why the Prime Directive comes into place and how it was built. Like, it all has a reason.
Yep.
Yes.
I made that comment, and he rebutted me on that comment a little bit as well. Because it's John Billingsley. Love the guy. Oh my God, he's such a great guy. But yeah, again, like you said, they don't have the Prime Directive. So Archer is having to fumble his way through trying to figure out to get rid of his, our humanity of, well, let's take care of, hello, just first episode when Trip is telling that mother, stop doing that to her kid. And T'Pol's like, she's weaning him. I'm like, oh. And I think I have told Connor, or maybe, I can't remember if I've ever actually told him or not, but the one episode that he did, I got so mad at him, I got mad at Trip, not Connor, but was when he tries to oh, not cogenitor, when he tries to teach her to read, and the cogenitor to read and all this. Great synopsis, but what made me so upset with him was that he was damaging what his captain was working on to make this wonderful relationship, this great first contact, and he goes and futzes it all up. And I'm just like, prime directive, but we don't have it. And I'm just like, stop.
Yeah. But again, we need that. Yeah. And it's a sign of kind of good television if you're sat there wanting to like scream or tear out your hair, that it's doing what it's meant to. It's making you feel something.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it is. Yeah. And I learned from Connor, actually, he was happy they did that, because up to that point he had done some other, made some bad decisions, and they had just like given him a slap on the hand per se, and he got away with it. And he was actually happy that he did get in trouble and had legitimate consequences for his actions. So once I heard him say that, I was a little less upset with Trip at that point. But, I get it. So I was curious though. So we know your favorite series, actor or actress. I'm pretty sure it's a certain board, probably. Maybe.
It's Jerry Ryan, always. Genuinely, for quite a deep, meaningful reason, not to bring the tone down. But I genuinely, looking back as an adult, I didn't realize actually how much I learned about myself and womanhood through Seven. So I didn't have a relationship, really a positive one, with my mum. And she was such a positive kind of example to me that I really related to. And I had a conversation with a friend a number of years ago, and she also loved Voyager. And her favourite character was Janeway, and mine was Seven. And I asked her, because I thought my friend would be like Seven with me, and if anything, I should be the person that liked Janeway. And it was quite an odd choice. So I said to her, I was like, why is Captain Janeway your favourite? Why not Seven? And she said, I love Captain Janeway because she showed me that you can be a strong female that's not sexualized, and you don't have to be pretty or stunning. And this is someone that was very self-confident and, wore very fitted clothing, very comfortable in her own skin. So I was like, that's really interesting. And actually, I'm kind of the opposite of that. I do my cosplays, but I'm not very out there as in showing skin. And so that's why I was quite shocked. And she said, well, why is Seven your favorite character? And I said, kind of the opposite of you, in that Seven was the perfect example to me that you could be feminine, you could be attractive and intelligent. Because on TV at that point, you were either the nerdy girl that no one thought was pretty, but you were really, really smart, or you were the pretty girl. Whereas Seven was the first example I saw on television where you could look incredible, not necessarily be sexualized in the way that women were a lot of the time on TV. She was a sexy character, but she wasn't sexualized by the characters in the show, and be really intelligent and respected. Because I knew I wanted to go to university. I knew I wanted to use my brain in whatever it was that I did, but I also wasn't always a tomboy. I loved shiny silver stuff and curling my hair and doing all of that. So I was like, oh, okay, you can do both. You don't have to fit into either of these two stereotypes.
That's a great answer. It is. Jerry Ryan said something at Star Trek Orlando that really resonated with me, because I honestly just never really thought about it before. But she said, someone asked her about, the catsuit, and she said, I was okay with it. I knew what they were doing. I knew it was for ratings. She said, but I was okay with it because that wasn't the character. It was just the aesthetics. She's like, and she's like, I think it would have bothered me if they made the character like that, but it wasn't. It was just what she was wearing, and so it didn't really matter to me. It didn't bother me, because that just wasn't Seven at all. And I really liked that answer. You know what I mean? Like she was right. Like I'd just never given that much thought. So I love that answer. And speaking of 7 of 9 and your sweatshirt, which is so cute, and it has Leah Sci-Fi on it, and it's you as 7 of 9. So of course we have to talk about your cosplay and how you got into cosplay.
So I was cosplaying before I knew it was cosplay. Another random fun fact, another kind of fandom that I'm in is actually the Prince fandom, as in the guy who sang Purple Rain. Prince.
Yes.
I'm a huge
Wow.
Prince fan. So I was dressing up in Prince costumes, making my own and sewing on buttons onto crop tops. As far back as I remember. So I went to go see Prince for the first time when I was 10, dressed as Prince out of the Kiss music video. So I was kind of doing all of that stuff forever. And then I started doing Star Trek. Gosh, when would that have been? I think it would have been the Destination Trek. The last one they had before COVID was the first time that I did a 7 of 9 Star Trek cosplay. But it just made sense. I teach, prosthetics, hair, makeup. Yeah. It made sense for me to sculpt my prosthetics and make them and kind of showcase my hair and makeup on myself rather than on other people all the time.
Well, I think it had to be your TikTok, I'm pretty sure. You had videos of preparing and making your 7 of 9 cosplay. Like, I think you 3D, did I see right? You 3D printed the eyepiece or something?
I have a 3D printed 7 of 9. Where is it? There we go. I got this cool. Star Trek Orlando. I don't know what to do with it, but I'm very happy about it. I have it.
So mine are all made from scratch. So I actually sculpted mine. So I made it as a silicone. Yeah, silicone prosthetic. Because I wanted it to move with me. The 3D ones don't move with expression. And the handpiece obviously needs to move because I wanted function in my hand. So they're fully made out of silicone, completely hand sculpted, hand molded, hand casted, hand painted and applied.
That's absolutely incredible. That just the amount of work and talent that goes into that is just
and the detail.
Unfathomable.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And that's just your Star Trek cosplay. You did full Queen Amidala?
Yes, I did.
I'm gonna jump franchises for just a second. Nobody get mad.
How dare you?
I know. We're talking Star Wars.
Traitor.
I ain't no traitor. But I saw your pictures of that. Explain a little bit how you came up, how you just got into that whole costume and what it took to make that cosplay.
Welcome to the making of my Queen Amidala cosplay. Here's me playing around with some textures to get the metal effect on the headdress. I really liked it, so I went with that one. For the actual hair donut that went around the headpiece, I used some really strong wire with, I think it's pipe installation foam. And as you can see, I'm just adjusting the size here. I then padded it out with crepe hair to give it the volume and the kind of shape that I needed, and then cut up a pair of tights to hold it all in. So you can see me just sewing the two legs together there. But it was just about creating the right shape. Voila. Once I created the right shape, that's when I went in with the hair to actually wrap it. I was using just spray adhesive here. This is multi-purpose. It can be used on fabrics, hair, all sorts. And it was actually really fantastic. So thank you, Screwfix. I didn't end up using this lace, but I dyed it and it didn't work, unfortunately, but trial and error. I actually used a heat gun then around the outer edges of the hairpiece just to shrink it and give it that shiny finish. The actual headpiece itself is made out of a material called warbler, and it's a fantastic material for cosplay because when it's cold, it's solid, but you can heat it up with a heat gun and it liquefies and becomes quite sticky and sticks to itself really well. So I created the panels and I'm folding all the edges over here so there are no kind of hard, jagged edges. And I'm also molding the ear pieces here, and I'm just using an Easter egg and making sure that that all fits together. Then I go back to my gold leafing technique. I used hot glue, sculpted the hot glue into the swirls, and then gold leafed the whole thing by hand, testing to see if it all fits there. Then worked on the side panels some more, carried on sculpting that hot glue into the swirls, doing more gold leafing. This was the most time-consuming part, to be honest. Here was me kind of just placing all the parts together just to check that they all fitted, that they were all sculpted into the same shape. Then it's a case of adding the materials. I tried to line everything. I tend to find it makes it look a little bit more expensive and a little bit more bulky. So the red was lined as well as the silvery, coppery tone panels. This was actually the end of a curtain rail that I sculpted on top of, painted, and then added the pearls. But I found it was the perfect shape. So thank you, the end of a curtain rail. Checking it all fits, everything's symmetrical, which is the hardest part. And then voila! This was really the finishing touch, adding the lights to the dress, and it just added such a wow moment to the costume. These were just joggers lights from Poundland. Then it was time for the full glam. Unfortunately, you couldn't really see the lights when we were outside, but inside the convention, they looked fantastic, and they did really show up in some of the pictures. But yeah, thank you for joining me for my behind the scenes making of. If you have any questions, let me know.
That was probably my most daunting because I feel like there's extra pressure. When you teach these things, I'm like, this can't come out bad. Like, I am damaging my career if this comes out bad. But it was the most daunting because obviously hers is far, far more intricate and made by hat specialists and the most incredible couture designers. And I'm trained making headpieces and I teach how to make headpieces, but this was a little bit different than anything else that I'd done. I'm predominantly trained to use cage work. So it was a challenge, but I used a material called warbler. It's used quite a lot in the cosplay community, but it's fantastic because it's a plastic that's solid, but you've got a little bit of give. It kind of bends slightly, but when you heat it up, it becomes malleable. And you can heat it up to the point that it almost starts to liquefy. But then when it cools down in whatever position you set it into. Oh. But with that, you can melt it and stick it to itself, which was the big benefit with the Queen Amidala one, because I needed my big side panels to stick to the headband without adding too much weight or bulk. But it was a challenge. It was, I think, about 25 hours work, 20 hours work to make that headpiece and the big hair donut.
So, and we will put this in. I'm looking at it right now, but so you sculpted every bit of that headpiece. Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's insane. That's amazing.
That's a lot of work. Wow. You are definitely dedicated to your craft.
So, people think that because I teach across multiple programs that I must have so much opportunity to be creative, but it's actually not the case. When I'm teaching practical, I'm repeating the same demonstrations again and again every semester. So there's very little scope for me to actually just be creative. And when I'm out in industry, I've got a brief. I'm having to do what they tell me to do. So cosplay is like the one outlet I have where I can choose a passion project and extend on the skills I want.
Well, your skills are phenomenal, and
incredible.
I'm sitting here thinking now, and this will lead us straight into our next topic, which is conventions. You said you've been to Destination. So what all conventions have you gone to so far, in general, and in cosplay at? Probably all of them.
So. Not necessarily all. I'm quite picky because I'm I love all sci-fi, hence Leah Sci-Fi. But I'm not necessarily an anime girl. I'm not really into the anime stuff. I'm not necessarily a Pokemon girl. So they are a huge part of a lot of conventions.
Yeah.
So I try and cherry pick the ones that cater a little bit more to what I like. But I've done Destination now every year since a good few years before COVID, which I love. I feel like Destination's had a lot of slack over the years, but I really love it because it's my favourite community event. It's where I got to meet Positively Geeky, Gracie Ann. There's so many people that go there.
I'm not
and it's
jealous.
You need to come this year.
So that's okay.
We'll see.
So I'm glad you said that about Destination, because I mean, obviously you probably hear the criticism as well. There is I've heard a lot of criticism about Destination, and I don't know if it's as much as I was talking to, I think it was Captain Goodwill about it actually recently. And it's not as, because he's actually working with Destination on some stuff for Trekkin Up North. And I don't think it's as much destination as it's actually the destination that it's at of Blackpool. That's what I keep on hearing, because every time I've made some comments about, I wouldn't mind going to Destination, and they're like, oh, you want to go to Blackpool? Again, not knowing enough about I've got a lot of British friends now, but they're like, but that is the reaction I get. Oh, Blackpool.
Yeah.
And so
Blackpool it's not for the faint-hearted. You've really got to have like faith of the heart if you're going to make it out. Yeah, it's a very British holiday destination. So everyone in the UK at some point has probably been to Blackpool. It's seen as the cheap, cheerful holiday. It's like Vegas if Vegas had an addiction to a substance it shouldn't. It's the best way I can explain it.
Sounds about right.
The sea is green. There's not much sand. It's an experience, but it's also Destination. What I feel has done really, really well, and I don't know whether it's done it on purpose or not, but it kind of leans into the whole cheap and cheerful vibe. It kind of leans into it. So the parties are like a school disco. They are like the cringiest disco you've ever been to, but they just lean into it, and everyone goes in and they're like, do you know what? This is a cheese fest. And it's okay. We're just going to have school. The first one I went to, and I hadn't been to a lot of convention parties. The first one I ever went to this wasn't in Blackpool. It was when it was in Birmingham. It was the last one they did in Birmingham. I walked in and a grown man knee slid past me on the dance floor. That was my introduction.
Oh my God. Welcome to Blackpool. Our destination.
Yeah.
Yes, that's
Vegas is going to be so much fun.
Yeah. Well, okay. So maybe I'm not just because that's what I've heard people say. And then I brought up I'd love to go to Warp 2 next year, because I couldn't make it to Warp 1 because I'm still working. But I would love to. But then I'm here. Did you go to Warp 1? I don't remember.
I did. I did. Yes.
So, but then, of course, every con has their pros and cons. Oh God, no pun intended there. But at Warp 1, Star Fury, they don't have, I think I was told they don't have vendors. It's just a traditional con. And what's explained a lot why I saw a lot of my, Delta Flyer friends, a lot of them were just usually at a table drinking a beer, having a drink, I guess, while they're waiting for in between panels. So I was been warned about that too. So if I go to Warp 2, be ready to have some downtime in between panels if there's a panel you're not interested in listening to or something.
Yeah, it's very different. I'm not planning on doing Warp 2. Make of that what you will. No disrespect to the convention, but for me, I don't necessarily go for the guests, unless Jerry Ryan's there. I'm not, because I haven't had a chance to meet her yet. So unless Jerry Ryan's there. I'm not overly phased by the guests. I go for the community. I go to see my friends, and I
Yes.
love the vendors. And Destination has fantastic vendors, and the sense
Okay,
of
good.
community at that event is second to none. So it's just the type of convention that I personally prefer.
No, and I have to agree now. So I've tried to tone back talking about my convention history, but because we're talking about it right now, I went last year for the first time in a very, 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 very long time. I went to SpaceCon in San Antonio. It was basically they had everybody but Picardo and and Roxanne. They're the only two I don't have, and I screwed up, and I still missed. I'm not worried about Picardo. He goes to enough conventions to get his autograph.
Roxanne.
I totally missed Roxanne. I totally screwed the pooch. I was standing over by Garrett's booth at Vegas this year, just fiddle farting around, talking to one of the other Delta flyers. I said, "Yeah, I need to go get Roxanne and Bob." And Carrie was like, "I think they may have already left."
Whoops.
Yeah, I don't think "whoops" is what I said actually.
That's what
other
happened to
words.
me with Jerry Ryan at Orlando.
Yeah. So
That wasn't my fault though. That was poor planning on the convention's part. I'm just gonna say
Yeah,
it. Like,
and
that
so-
was
For the record,
on them.
Guys, you can't let this happen to me in Vegas. If I leave Vegas and
won't.
Jerry Ryan is actually there,
I won't.
Oh, don't worry.
I promise you that you're
Yes,
meeting Jerry
you
Ryan.
will
when she's
do
there.
that.
Okay, thank
I
you.
promise I won't let this happen.
Thank you.
I promise. I
As
got you.
I've, yeah,
Leah Sci-Fi
we've already
meeting
done
Jerry
that.
Ryan is going on the list.
Yeah,
Like,
we have
okay,
already figured that
got
out.
you.
So I learned that the hard way this year because this is my first
Yeah.
Vegas to go to, and I didn't think. Again, I've only been to the smaller cons where it's so I'm like, oh, they're there the whole weekend, and I open I'm like, God dang it, she was there until Saturday, and she's gone. So
So
long
you
story
had 4 days to go get an autograph for her.
Well, I was only
Saved
there
it for the
Friday,
last
Saturday,
day.
and Sunday. I didn't get there
Okay.
until Friday. So
Okay.
but regardless, I wondered why all my seventh rule friends were making schedules for the convention. So I will tell you this: once they release the actual schedule, make a schedule. And I was so mad. And write down. This person is not here after such as because they are not there the entire time.
Yeah.
There are some that will be there from say, Wednesday to Thursday and Wednesday to Sunday. And like the Enterprise boys, Connor and Dom, they were there from I think, Wednesday to Saturday. They weren't there Sunday. So yes, make a schedule. You got to do it.
As long as I leave me, I know Jerry Ryan hasn't been announced yet, so I'm making a bit
she'll
of a
be
leap
there.
of faith here. But
I think, yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they'll be
she's
there.
normally there.
Yeah. So
But that's my big one. As long as I leave Vegas with a photo and an autograph from Jerry, then all the money and all the hassle, whatever, is worth it. Because
That's
she
Yes.
was at Destination years and years ago, and it was the last one they did, I think, one of the last ones before COVID. And I saw her and I was like, oh my gosh, she was signing away. And her signature was £75. And at the time, I think I was a teaching assistant and I did not have £75 to spend. And I was there with my friend and I was like, I have to. And they were like, Leah, you're not going to eat for the next 2 months if you spend £75 getting this signature. And I thought, that's okay. But they were very sensible, semi-sensible, and taught me out of it. And I saw her and I was like almost in tears, and they taught me out of it. And the idea was she'll be back. Like, she's here every year. She'll be here for other conventions, and she's
And then
never
she
been
never
back.
came back.
No.
never been back. Oh my God. Yeah.
So
no.
I want to wear my costume in front of
Yes.
her. And
Absolutely.
Yes.
Well,
Yes.
make that happen. We definitely can try.
Yes.
Get you. Well, I'm glad you're going. We're all going. So now everybody in
And-
this screen's going.
Yes, and we have to make content as Janeway and Seven.
yes, we do. Absolutely, we do.
I'm very
Absolutely.
excited about it.
Yeah, that'll be so much fun. I'm glad this is your first Vegas, so you'll be there, correct?
Yep, I'll be there. And first time flying.
You told me that. I
Oh my
was
goodness.
really
I saw
surprised.
that on TikTok. Yeah.
I did not.
So obviously also first time in the States as well then.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so I've actually only left the country. By then, it will have been twice. I left the country for the first time in July this year, and I got the train. So I got the Eurostar to Paris,
Yeah.
and I'm doing Amsterdam in January. But again, that's the train. So
Yeah.
Well, get ready to sit there for a while. I've been to Europe. I've been to England once, and it's an 9-hour flight over and about a 10-hour flight back. So
It's a long flight. I think my best advice for that is I I used to get really, really anxious flying. And so when I was 12, we were going, like, the family was going to Hawaii, and it was a really, really long flight. And my dad knew I was going to be really stressed. And that's when I watched Voyager for the first time, because he thought, if she's watching Janeway, like, strong female, like, she'll be able to connect to her, and it'll give her some, like, sense of, like, confidence and, like, strength. So he downloaded, like, a season and a half of Voyager to watch in the flight. So download episodes of whatever, probably Star Trek, obviously, whatever you're gonna watch, and then, like, bring good headphones, and you just do that for the flight. Or read.
That's a good idea. I mean, I'm not afraid of heights. I go on all the roller coasters, so I'm not afraid of flying. It's just never happened. So
true. Well, and it's an experience. I mean,
it's definitely
It'll be an experience.
Also, bring gum to chew so your ears pop from the pressure.
Yeah. So
because that's can be uncomfortable.
Oh yeah, no.
And make sure that you get up and walk at least a couple of times, because it's a long flight. You don't want blood clots. So get up and, like, just walk up and down the aisles.
It's not scary now.
No, that's it. I mean, it's a long flight. It's like what, like an 12-hour flight, something like that?
8 to 9. Oh, sorry, it's me. I think it was 10 hours coming back from Europe to Texas when I went, and then it was like it's like an hour difference. 9 there, 8, 10 back. You know, because you're with and against the jet stream. But it's and guess what? I know the airline that I flew. Once we got going, adult beverages were on the house. Now, I don't know if that's still the case. That was 25 years ago. So, I have no idea now.
That feels like a bad idea. I got to be honest with you.
I don't drink.
Oh, well.
I don't drink. So as long as they serve the tea,
and
I get, as long as I get tea, I'm fine.
There you go.
Well, all right. Well, I'm going to ask you, I've got our last question. It's my last standardized question. And is, what Star Trek technology do you wish existed today?
Sorry, I'm laughing because obviously you sent some questions and this was on there, and I read them to my partner before we came on, and what my answer was very different to the answer he felt I should give. So my answer was, I want the transporter, obviously.
Right.
And I was like, I could travel anywhere. Like, it wouldn't matter that I haven't flown. That would be amazing. I could just transport to Vegas. However, he disagreed. And he disagreed because I hate doing the dishes. It's my pet peeve. I will put off cleaning my dishes as long as I can. I've not got space in my kitchen for a dishwasher, so I have to do it manually. So he said that I should have a replicator, because then there'd be no dishes.
Well,
that's a good answer.
That is a great answer. And I was surprised when I first started doing this and asking the question at how many people answered the replicator. And once they explained, I was like, oh, I totally understand why. And if you had a replicator, you can basically end world hunger and all. That was usually the answer. And I was like, oh, and clothing. And I was like, okay, totally get it. And also exactly what your partner said, because people hate doing dishes.
Yep.
You replicate your food, you walk back over, put it in the replicator, and it takes it back away for you.
My argument was, if I had a transporter, I could just transport the dishes away.
Oh, shit.
So where? Into space.
Just beam them up to space. Be gone.
That's really funny.
And I was going to ask before.
It brings a new meaning to saucer section, right?
Oh, my gosh. Oh, man. I did one more question real quick before we go. Is that your sweatshirt? Is that something that you sell, or is it just something for yourself only right now?
At the moment, it's just for me. This is the first time I've worn it. I literally got it yesterday. But I'm going to see if people want them. Yeah, if people want them, if there's a demand, then potentially yes. So
I would
let me know.
Totally want one. If you saw that, I'm totally buying one. It's awesome.
I can't imagine that people would not buy that, but
that's very exciting. It's amazing quality. The embroidery is fantastic, and it's a company. I'm going to be sharing them. They do destination, but they do loads of Star Trek embroidered hoodies and things like that. So they're an actual Trekkie brand that have done this for me.
Oh, you're gonna have to. I want.
Yeah, we're talking about that after. After the fact. All right. Well, Leah, thank you for giving us, on our Saturday. I know we had just have to do on the weekends just because of time zones and work and everything. So again, thank you so much for doing this for us. It's been
You're so
I've
welcome.
had such a good time talking with you. Wow, it's been fun. So
We talked about everything: AI, hair,
we
makeup,
did.
Star
We
Trek,
did.
and everything in
Covered all the
between.
bases.
that's right, we
Yeah.
did. All right. Well, again, thank you so much, and we will talk to you again soon. See you in Vegas. You have a good one.
See you
Bye.
in Vegas. Bye.
Thank you for watching The Transporter Room. For just $5 per month, enjoy ad-free access to this episode and all previous ones, plus exclusive bonus content. Sign up now on Patreon.